Are you trying to decide whether or not to dine out at your favorite restaurants during a COVID surge in Central Ohio? Hi, I'm Lisa Oyer with the Columbus Medical Association. I work with physicians every day, but just like many of you, I'm a mom here in Central Ohio trying to figure out the best way to keep my family safe and somewhat sane during this time. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Anita Somani. Dr. Somani is an OBGYN, and she's also the chair of our Women in Medicine community at the Columbus Medical Association. She's going to help us sort out some things to decide what the best route to take is regarding dining in Central Ohio during the COVID outbreak. So, hi, Dr. Somani. Thanks for joining us today to help sort through all this.
Hi, Lisa. Trying to pretend that we're out for an evening, dinner. So I have my glass of wine with me.
Perfect.
I'm the naughty one, but we do have a nice one also. I would love to virtually share it with you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that's going to help us get off to a good start.
Yeah.
So obviously the concept of dining out right now is a pretty hot topic.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's the holiday season. When you think about it, that's how we celebrate. We celebrate with food. Food is love. Everybody wants to get together. We're missing out on all our holiday parties this year. We've talked about how can we substitute, what can we do? Virtual's not the same as being in the room with the person, and it's not the same when I have a glass of wine here, you have a glass of wine there, but it's okay. It is what it is, as people say, and this is the year to do it this way.
So what is the science saying that happens or could happen if we actually physically go to restaurants?
So I think if you look at, like Dr. Sanjay Gupta talked about, the fact that we can safely open up. We don't need to do a complete lockdown, but two places that he really strongly suggests that people avoid are, and there's a whole list, but the two main ones were restaurants and bars. And restaurants, if we lived in a warm, sunny place, we could be outdoors on a patio. We could be enjoying the outdoors and getting together with friends, with the caveat that you want to wear your mask in between eating, or when the waiter comes to the table, you want to put your mask back on, because they're being forced to wear masks because of the government's, the governor's orders. But we as customers and as dining, someone who's dining in a restaurant should have the same courtesy for the wait staff. You wear a mask not only for yourself, but you wear a mask for others.
Right.
So if you are going to eat in a restaurant, I think you need to take that common sense step. Dr. Fauci says he just pulls it down by his chin and then he pulls it up in between, while he's not actively eating or drinking, he just pulls it right back up, and that reminds him to, put the mask back on. So I think that's something you can do if you're going to eat in a restaurant. But the other big issue is ventilation. So when you think about how restaurants are ventilated, if you have a lot of windows, the air circulates, that decreases the amount of droplets in the air. But here we are in Central Ohio, and we don't have the option to eat out about this time of year. Now, I do know some restaurants that have taken tents and are creating outdoor spaces, but covering them and enclosing them. So that becomes a fancy outdoor patio. That's still indoors in the sense that there's no air circulating through. They can make an effort to circulate the air, but it's not the same as being physically outside. So I wouldn't fool myself into thinking that's safer. What I think you want to look at when you go to restaurants is, are the tables separated? So socially distancing, right? So if I go in and I see a restaurant and they haven't spaced out their tables 6 feet apart, if they don't have dividers, some of the restaurants have done a really good job of putting up dividers or curtains, something to separate the space, I'm not going to eat there. I'm not going to stay at that restaurant. If I go in and they have areas where people are gathering and crowded, so around the cash register, around the hostess stand, there's a bunch of people at the bar ordering drinks, not a place you want to be, not a place that's safe. So, I would look at those things when I walk into a restaurant, or I would ask ahead of time, how are you separating tables? What are you doing? What safety measures have you taken? So the other big thing is bars, right? People go to bars, they want to hang out, they want to, especially people who are younger. They love the atmosphere of a bar. The problem is bars are noisy, they're loud. So you're forced to speak loudly. And when you speak loudly, you disperse those particles, and there's lots of videos that show how how your spit or how the viral particles are dispersed. So when you're at a bar and you're talking loudly and you're having to scream over the music or scream over the noise, that is just a setup for getting people infected, especially people who are asymptomatic and are shedding the virus, and then you get infected because you were near them. So the other thing is, how do you seat yourself in a restaurant, right? You think that, oh, if I'm sitting across from someone, that's probably more dangerous. But the reality is, sitting next to them, you're closer. So that initial viral spread is going to hit you before it hits someone across the table. So if
Interesting.
you're with a group, space yourself out, sit across from, or what we did in the summertime is, like, my husband and I would sit on one side closer to each other, and then the other couple would sit on the other side closer to each other. So we were distancing instead of, a normal, like, rectangular square table, everybody has one corner.
Mhm.
Instead, we were just creating that space between the two couples. And then the other thing is the time that you spend, right? So if you're indoors, what is a safe limit of time to be in a space? If you're going to spend 2 or 3 hours indoors in a restaurant, probably not a good idea.
Okay.
But if you can be quick and short and get in and out, in with the other parameters that we've talked about, that might be an exception or a way to handle it.
Yeah. Oh, great tips. So we're heading into the holiday season, a very festive season, and I think we're all pretty concerned about the case numbers here in Central Ohio and how any of these things, including dining out, could affect the case numbers. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So, interestingly enough, the CDC actually put out a report back in September that showed that people who tested positive were twice as likely to have eaten at a restaurant, like, in the 2 weeks prior, prior to onset of symptoms.
Mm.
So I think if you really think about it, right now we plateaued a little bit, but we haven't seen all of the Thanksgiving numbers yet. I mean, I was on a Zoom call before this, and talking about COVID numbers and how the hospital system that I'm with, how they are managing, between all the different hospitals and the numbers going up, and having to actually deploy. And I mean, even in our OBGYN practice, our nurses have been called out to go do COVID testing at the different at the different sites because of manpower shortages. I mean, if you have to quarantine or you yourself get infected, those things affect manpower in the office space. They affect the number of people that need to be tested. So then you're taking staff, to the testing sites to make sure people are getting through quickly. So I would like to think that we will all be smart and safe and take the advice of take out, eat at home. You can support your restaurants, you can support the local businesses by doing carry out, by doing takeout, by creating that same ambiance for yourself at home that you have in a restaurant.
So I know you like to dine out, but you also are a great cook.
Yeah.
What is the plan for your holiday dinner with your family? You have 2 kids.
Yeah. So my daughter has the week off, so she'll test before she comes home. We're planning to wear masks in the house, but our son and his girlfriend will only come just for a couple days. Again, keeping the risk
And
down,
it's small.
keeping
Yep.
it small.
Well, Dr. Somani, thank you so much for joining us and having some good tips and information for us as we head into the holiday season.
Thank you, Lisa. And cheers to everyone out there that's watching. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy Hanukkah. But honestly, stay safe, stay together and apart. I think that we can do this. It's one year. And I've already told my staff we're going to do a Christmas in July party, and
Ah,
we're going to pretend it's Christmas. So
well, keep the tips coming. You have a lot of good ones, so we don't have to be interviewing for you to keep the tips coming.
absolutely. Well, take care. Happy
Thank
holidays.
you. Thank you. So our thanks to Dr. Somani for helping us think through this. I have lots more questions, and I'll be interviewing CMA, physicians, and other experts to help us find strategies to get through the COVID pandemic. So watch for more interviews to come. And remember, what we do together counts more than ever.